What's going on, community? Good to see everybody. Man, what a pleasure. I know everybody's excited about October. Hopefully y'all saw, CC dropped his video, getting everybody the heads up that we're going to be going live this month. I am getting the live stream here figured out, so I'm about to hop on and ask some questions and all that good stuff. Give me just one quick second here. Got to mute my other screen. Looking good. Man, guys, I'm excited. I'm just super excited. I'm as excited as everyone else is about having us go live and the platform being here. Couldn't be happier. Just super excited, man. We're going to have Fetch. We're going to have a big update on that from CC here in just a couple of days. First part of this next week, kind of give away, all the details, how we're going to roll it out. Obviously, so we've still been getting this quite a bit. So now Fetch has to be out before LL. Fetch is part of what runs, some of the contracts, is what gives us the PLS price input. That's where the magic is. So Fetch will come out first. We already have PulseChain Safe. It's already out. It's a basic multi-sig wallet, all that kind of good stuff. That functionality is already up on MAINNET. So then Fetch will come, and then we'll have, obviously LL, the big one that everybody's waiting on. So I'm going to jump right into the questions. Right before I do, I wanted to let me get on here and share screen. Close that. So I did want to share one feature here. I don't know that everyone has seen it yet, but this is super slick. So this is one of the things that we updated on our last iteration on testnet, and it's this button right up here. So we actually have a 27-page slide that actually goes through. It's this little slide deck here. It tours the entire dApp. It is really clean. So for first users or people who didn't spend that much time on testnet, or if you're sending it to onboards, all that kind of good stuff, this is a great way to go through and get a good feel for everything that is on the platform. Again, we wanted to have that like Web 2 feel. So you're going to have all the videos that are all laid out here to go over all the functions. They're super clean. They're really helpful. Just right in the dApp. You're going to have the tour, and you're going to have the analytics as well that goes over, all the dashboard and these great charts showing some of the different metrics in the system. It's just nice to have all that kind of stuff there, right? Like that's the magic, man. I'm very, very happy with our front end. On the Fetch update, I believe that CC is going to drop a few teasers and show some of the magic that we have on the Fetch front end. And it is, again, another top tier. We're very, very happy with that. It's pretty incredible stuff. So I just want to walk through the tour real quick, and then we're just going to jump right into the questions, guys. So you see here, again, basic stuff, but it's nice, clean, simple English, right? Connect your wallet. Here you have the added tokens. So you can go through and add the token addresses by just literally clicking these here. Now you have to have a wallet connected, but it'll go and automatically add that for you. Really nice and clean. And we preach this all the time, right? Like, don't ask people for the contact addresses, especially on Telegram or all these places. There's just too many issues. Go get that stuff from official sources. Like, it's basic security. Take the extra step, confirm those things, be safe. I've seen people talking about it today in our Telegram that there's some variation of a loan token that's a scam token that's out there. So, again, always be extra careful with that kind of stuff. So again, you're going to have all the walkthrough on the explainers, and I'm not going to go through all 27, but just to highlight, here you go. Here's what the performance protocol, highlight what the TCR and the battery logo is there. Walk through every function. Nice, simple. Monitor important stats. Boom. Click here to use the stability pool. Boom. Staking USDL. What the rewards are. And again, there's 27. It just goes through everything. Just nice, clean, simple English in a very, very polished way. So really, really happy with that. Again, everything else, there's the light mode, the dark mode, analytics, liquidation, redemptions, all that stuff is there. Now we have tons of content. We're going to do a bunch more leading up now that, everyone's sitting here frothing, trying to get dialed in. Again, please, use the testnet here that we have, reach out with questions. Our guys are doing a great job in the Telegram. We open up the voice chat. We're going to be opening that more often, get back, really getting all that energy up so that we can, get a chance to go through. So, we've got a lot of new people in the community with all the great stuff that, that's gone on. We have, people that just touched on it, moved on, need a refresher, all that. So All this stuff is here. Hop on the test net, come in the Telegram. We'll open up the voice chat. I found more and more going over some of the stuff here in the DApp that the smaller settings are really helpful. There's a couple of calls that I like to hop on with some of the players throughout the space, and it's just incredible when you get to talk one at a time, 2 or 3 at a time, small groups. How much easier so much of this stuff is to get. We'll be doing more of these live streams as well. I think these are really, really helpful again to get through that kind of stuff. So it's all here. Lots of resources. Let us know what we can do to help provide all that education. I'm going to work with a few of the other influencers, people in the space that are doing really good stuff. Because you want to hear from other people, right? Like you got to hear from a few different voices. You want to hear it from the people that really speak your language. So we're going to have, some extra stuff that we're going to do to help out those guys, make sure they've got all the ammo they need, that they can convey it, not just to their audience, but in their own words or in their own voice, how they like, what they're concerned with, what they want to do with it, where the value is for them. So a lot of that stuff will be coming down the pipeline, but couldn't be happier with the quality of the front end, the tour, and just the ease of use, right? Like it's, I was on a quick stream with DJ Khaled. He's a young cat. I really enjoyed talking with him. He invited me on, and we just touched on something that's underrated, and it's being cool and being pretty, and not that stuff gets really undervalued when you look at like scale. So having this stuff that is really polished, it's simple to use, it makes a big difference in crypto, right? Like there's already a lot going on. It can be intimidating for a lot of people. So the easier, the cleaner we can make this stuff, the better, right? All right, so let's go and hop into some questions. We'll see what everybody's got. It's going to be really nice, man. Appreciate everybody jumping in. Super excited here. So let's see. Let's see. All right. NATO Crypto says, please also reiterate the expected LP strategy being a second option to staking loan tokens. Not 100% what you're asking there, NATO. So I'm not sure if you're asking about the initial LP strategy as far as like the early rewards we have with LP versus staking the loan, or if you're talking about actually taking the loan token and putting that into a liquidity pool and providing liquidity versus staking. So, we're not going to have a clear answer on that. Again, depends on how many people are providing liquidity, what the volume looks like, how many people are staking the token, but there'll be a lot of value there both ways. And that's something that, again, that's just going to be on chain up to the community. If there's a ton of volume and not that many are providing liquidity with the loan token, you could have great returns. Not that many are staking. Now, again, a lot of it's going to be locked up as well. So it's just going to depend on what way the community goes there, but there's going to be ways to get yield both directions. So if you have more specifically than that, go ahead and type in there. I'll try to catch your next one. Let's see. Samuel says, when USDL debit card, it's closer than people think. Like that's, you need to have some custodian partners, but that stuff's really, really valuable to having that kind of connection when it comes to TradFi. So I'm actually working with a few different people individually that are doing some really, really cool stuff with their USDL very early on that's real world stuff. We're gonna be doing some more in-depth content with them, so we'll be touching on some of that. But the USDL debit card, that is definitely something we want to get to at some point in the future, and that will make a huge difference when it comes to sort of the value proposition of USDL. So you want to use the right tool for the right job. So as much as there's admin key risk and issues when it comes to the fiat-backed stable coins, or like some of the lack of transparency or opaqueness with like USDT, but they work really well, right? Like there's places you can just use them as true currency in certain jurisdictions. That's what you need to be able to connect to, a bank account. So, as much as we, always want to be leaning into DeFi, if you're like, hey, I use Coinbase and that's where I get my on and off ramp. Okay, well then, you want to have some exposure to USC for that time, but you can use USDL and all these other DeFi protocols to be where you hold your value, and then just, use USDC directly as part of the off ramp. So yeah, having that kind of connection with the debit card, I think is huge. Like super, super cool stuff that I hope we get to, relatively soon. MCR, Magic Carp Riot, it's good to see you guys. Great job on the front end. It's looking really, really solid. Very, very cool stuff. Yeah, really good to see you guys. Yeah, we're live. Good stuff. Larson, nice to see you, brother. Appreciate all the good vibes, man. It's definitely been a stressful one, especially on Twitter, guys, or X. Something that I've definitely noticed, obviously, bear market stuff, crypto, yada, yada, yada. But when they made that change and started paying the creators, which is all good and well, absolutely, you always want more value for content creators. They do more for the ecosystem, especially in crypto, than I think a lot of people really want to give credit to. There's obviously people, obviously BitBoy's going through his craziness right now. You have, paid courses, some stuff that's junk. You have people who shill, trash, all those kind of issues, but they do a ton for the space, and the stuff's really hard. So content creators don't get enough love. So it's always a good thing to help support all those guys. Make sure people know that, to kind of take what I was trying to get to there is when they made that change and started paying people on Twitter, you could tell the energy went up. Like it got more triggering, more gaslight, more X, more everything. And you can definitely tell that that's, kind of getting on people. So definitely take care of your mental space. I've had a ton of people reach out with, that similar process that Twitter's getting them. So take your time. But Larson's a super positive guy. Reached out some gratitude. It means a lot, man. I appreciate it, brother. Feels like the whole world is waiting on Fetch. I know how it feels, man. So yeah, there's a few other protocols that are going to use Fetch. And just quickly for those that don't kind of understand, how important it is. So Fetch is the oracle. It's a decentralized oracle, and it's what basically sends either off-chain or on-chain data into the smart contract. So for liquid loans, we need the price of PLS. For all these other DeFi protocols, they need some type of oracle to be up. So there's a handful of other protocols in the PulseChain space that are waiting on Fetch, and it's definitely going to kind of kick off a DeFi fall. I was saying DeFi summer, run into some timing there, but we're going to have a lot come to life, and I think that it's going to mean a lot for PulseChain. So I've mentioned this a few times privately in some of the smaller calls, but not only are we going to have LL and Fetch and all these other great guys coming to market, but I think that we're going to give some activity activity breeds activity. So I think that we're going to have whether people if they're hating on stuff, they're going to have better things to hate on. If people are super excited, man, they're going to be really pumped to have it. I think we're going to have more to talk about, more tickers, more, use cases, more protocols. It's going to add just a lot going on, right? I think some people are kind of stuck in a rut, and whether or not you end up actually using all these protocols or not, I think them all coming to the space, and adding something to PulseChain, even if you want to be a maxi, which is, I have less issue with than I think, than would seem, being that we build a lot of other things. Hey, if you're on that max mentality, there's just more stuff coming. You can just, be nice, choose not to participate, take your time if you do, and just know that these things are going to, they're going to provide transactions. They're going to provide TVL. They're going to be adding to the buy and burn. And so you can, just basically hold PLS or PulseX and just wish everybody else the best, and know that we're trying to, pump your bag when it comes to transactions and volume, and giving things for people to do really on chain. So hopefully, whether you participate or not, these things are, very, very positive for you. Let's see here. Yeah, Mr. Gonzalez, cheers to the family from sunny Miami. Very, very cool, man. Hopefully, I think that's coming up like this week. Hopefully get a chance to go check out the PulseChain tour. SJ and RG3 and all of them are doing a crazy, crazy good job. I'm going to be at both their events in Texas. So anyone that's going to be there in Austin or Dallas, holler at me. Let me know you're coming out. Love hanging out with everybody. Usually when Maddie throws any of those things that are close, I try to catch those as well. Last time the German boys and Audit and all them were doing the 555 tour. I went through and got a chance to hang out with those guys, and man, hanging out with the community is the best. So if you get a chance while you're in Miami, man, go check them on, should be this Saturday. I'm pretty sure it's the 7th. Let's see. Isn't that how DAI works? It lets you exchange. So Gavin brings up DAI. So I don't want to touch on the PDAI stuff. Whew, the boys are crazy. But the Maker DAO contract is much more complex than it originally was. It used to be a single collateral that was ETH, and it had DAI, and there's a bit of an auction mechanic on how liquidation events go through when you do lending. But now it has USDC, it has real world assets. There's a lot of different collateral. So DAI is its own little rabbit hole to look into. They own hundreds of millions in real world assets and treasury bonds and other things. So it does not have anywhere near the same level of like true decentralized principles for when it originally came out, but it's still better than a lot of the alternatives. Has a lot of different outlets for on ramps and off ramps. Obviously RH is a big fan of DAI itself, so it has a lot of pros, but I think that as we see it progress, I think most people will be much happier with the liquid loans contract the way it is on PLS. Yeah, I'm really happy with the front end, man. I see a lot of guys talking about that. It's really, really cool. Glad to see so many people are excited about the front end. Again, there's a couple other teams building really, really good ones. So, but again, that quality of the front end, having multiple front ends is super important. We've seen this with Uniswap and a few of the DEX aggregators that the code is decentralized, but the front ends are not, right? So, quickly on that, it's tough, right? It's tough to see those guys get centralized, or their centralized aspects to their front ends, and then censor something like Hex. It's not great, but you want again, when it comes to being DeFi and people being free to do as they want, some of that is for those companies to do as they want as well. So again, I'm not supportive of censorship, but that's the magic in wanting to always have multiple front ends. And multiple front ends, not only gives you multiple ways to actually access code, but also builds in that competition, and usually ends up with a better product. So front ends are a big component to DeFi and making sure that everybody can use these things as they choose to. So really happy with ours and glad so many teams are building. Let's see. Is the audit. Can you explain? Okay, so Bird Gang says, can you explain the redemptions? I sure can, brother. Let me open up tab here. All right, give me 1 second here. I don't do too many live streams, so I kind of bumble through this a bit, guys. So here's the redemption page, right? So 1 USDL gives you 1 USD worth of Pulse, right? So you can go in here and actually go through the redemptions. Now, the redemptions are not active for the first 14 days. So there's a couple things about that. So I'll touch on that first part, and then I'll dial into the redemption specifically. So it's not available for the first 14 days. So part of that is to make sure that, again, as you have these crazy swings, that you don't just have like wild instant ARB opportunities where people are just redeeming huge amounts, and you want to get a lot of USDL out into the market. So you want there to be a lot of liquidity. So that first 14 days, this isn't on. Now, that means that there's likely to be big opportunities for arbitrage. So again, if you see it, swing down to 80 cents, you can choose to buy it up, wait to spend it, all those kinds of things. But for the first 14 days, because people know that redemptions will be on, and because people can continue to mint, it's still likely to maintain around that peg. But again, you start seeing spreads 4, 5, 20%. Like there's a lot of opportunity there. So maybe that's not for less experienced users, but there'll be some opportunities there, I'm sure. But the way the redemptions work here, as you can see, so if you hold USDL, this is what makes it a stable coin, is the ability to redeem. So what you'll see is that when it goes below its peg, so let's just say it's at 90 cents. Okay, well, why would you spend something for 90 cents? You can bring it here, redeem it, and then get that full dollar's worth of Pulse out. So as you're redeeming, you're basically taking advantage of that spread. So, if, again, let's say it's at 90 cents, you buy $100 worth, you go over here, you redeem it, you end up picking up that spread, right? That 10%. So what you'll see is that as the USDL goes below that peg at $1, you'll see the redemptions go up. And as it goes above its peg, you'll tend to see people start to mint it, because they're going to be able to mint it for $1 and then go spend it in LP for whatever the actual price is. So again, it has this peg mechanics, but things are worth whatever the LP says they are, right? So redemptions is how you're able to retrieve that Pulse behind it. It's how you get to the collateral. Again, this is complete DeFi, so anyone can do this. You don't have to ask for permission. You can use any of the front ends and go through and do this. But again, you'll see that bit of an oscillation where when it's below peg, it'll get redeemed. When it's above peg, people will tend to mint heavier there. So that's how the redemptions work. It's really simple. You literally just go in here, type in the amount. So 444. Now, again, right now on testnet, you see that Pulse is like $1.70. So it's way crazy. USDL is like $1.13. So these ratios are pretty crazy here. But you can see that I would pull out 44.4 PLS. And there's that redemption fee, which gets paid out to the loan holders that when they're staked. So you'd have a 0.5% fee. Now that fee can go up to 5%. And that's part of trying to maintain that peg in the system. So you'll see the loan origination, that fee as well. So you'll see that. Hold on 1 second. So you'll see that there, where that fee is on there. And that's part of, now again, that fee is crazy because I'm borrowing $63 million or so. So that fee, and the same thing with the redemptions, they can go from 0.5 to 5%, and that's part of trying to help the system maintain it a peg around USDL. So, but both of those fees are what get paid out to loan holders here. So if you're staking loan, you'll see that you get part of these rewards here, and that's through the redemption and the issuance here. So really, really cool stuff. All right. Dun, dun, dun. Bro, is that Khaled? Let's see here. Man, it's so good to see everybody, guys. I'm so glad we're getting closer here. We have so much more to talk about. Everyone's getting pumped up. Man, I'm so glad there's so much coming to the chain. I'm really, really jacked. Again, I'm not a big TA guy, but we're hitting above a few of those kind of tiers below. I'm seeing some of the other TA guys getting more bullish. So anytime we got some positivity, I'm pretty happy about it. Let's see. Do they answer questions from the chat or Twitter? Yeah, that's John. No, just post the questions here, man. I'll be happy to get to them. Let's see. So for those asking like on the loan, I would check out testnet.neverselling.io. Let's see. Culliver says, okay, will there be single-sided staking for PulseX? That's up to those guys, right? So we have the LP rewards, which I'll touch on in just a second, but how any of the dexes choose to treat this stuff is entirely up to them. So there's a couple of cool dexes. I know there's more coming. You know, a lot of those guys I think have done great work. I think the guys that built PulseX, I think they've got more coming. So that's up to all those guys. So we'll keep doing more. We're happy to be supportive, all that kind of good stuff. But again, that's all up to them. That's nothing we can control. But we do have our own LP rewards, which functions similar to not single-sided staking, but like the ink pairs or the ink rewards. So let me show you guys that real quick. This is pretty neat. So for the first 42 days, you'll have the LP rewards here. So again, this is similar to what you'd have with like an INC player or the INC pool. So what you'll do is you provide liquidity, and you can see here, and it reads through. It's nice and clean, right? So providing liquidity on PulseX V2 has to be on V2, and we did that to make sure that all the people providing liquidity are getting their own fees. And then what you'll do is where you would take your LP tokens and then go deposit them into the ink farms on PulseX, what you'll actually do is, again, provide liquidity in USDL PLS, and then you'll actually take those LP pools and you'll stake them here. Let me make it a little bigger for everybody. There we go. So you'll actually come and stake those here, and you'll actually get a loan reward. So rather, again, same kind of procedure, same mechanics, just stake and unstake. You still get all the standard rewards for providing LP, but rather than ink, there's a loan emissions that gets paid out for the first 42 days. So that's likely to be, again, a great opportunity. Depends on how many people are participating there. You'll see that it's about 150 billion loan that are going to get paid out over this. This is, again, likely to be a great place for yield early on. Again, one of those similar to the redemptions not being on the first 14 days. This is one of those places where it's to kind of help bootstrap and get this liquidity up and make it so that USDL is, a fantastic stable coin, very usable, has great order execution and things like that. This is one of the ways that we promote that. So another quick point is this supply of loan and all these, it's not inflationary. This is part of the actual supply. So this just emits and then it's gone. It's not inflating. This is part of that initial supply. That's that. It's in stone. It runs till it's out and then it's over. So that's the end of that there. So again, this is where you'll get some rewards. Now, it doesn't mean that the other dexes don't do similar things trying to kind of compete for that liquidity, but that will be up to them. I think that would be pretty cool because if any of these other guys put up something where they're incentivizing that liquidity there, then that would be two different opportunities, right? So if, again, any of these guys have an incentive, then everyone participating on that side wouldn't be here, and it helps to not dilute each other. So again, hopefully those other dexes do some cool stuff. If any of those guys want to reach out, I know a lot of people are like right on the edge of launching or just getting out. So if any of those, any of the other dexes have any questions, something we can do to help this along, if you guys want to provide some value, be happy to work through it with y'all. So just let me know. Let's see. Maddie Holland, man, good to see you, brother. Didn't get a chance to catch you last time we were in Austin, man. So I'll definitely have to make sure we see you again soon, man. If we later see you talking to did we claim them? Yeah, I touched on that one. True DeFi. Yeah, DJ Cal, man, it's good to see you, man. I appreciate the invitation. I thought our interview was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. So definitely appreciate it, man. Good stuff. Thanks for being supportive. Let's see. Wait, are you still WaLLrus or did you evolve like a Pokemon? Oh, Dixon, man. Yep, I'm still the WaLLrus, although I did evolve. I've got 2 L's now. So WaLLrus with 2 L's. I did not evolve. Let's see. Man, that's funny, actually. All right. Darren says, do we get any notice before contract goes live so we can stake our loan ASAP? So there'll be a few things. We've kind of gone around how we want to exactly dial that out. Like most things, these things usually get out. If people look on the chain, they're savvy, they know where to look. They can sometimes get a little bit of a heads up on that. But we'll have a bit of a countdown. We are going to announce a date ahead of time. So it's not going to be totally stealth, but again, whether it's you have 5-minute heads up or with it, wherever it's kind of in a time frame, we're still a little bit up in the air on that, but there'll be a heads up. So again, it'll be very fair. Again, most people get there roughly the same time. There shouldn't be too much, inside baseball, that kind of stuff. So the final stages, do not control PulseX. That would be yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anything with the PulseX single-sided staking, we don't have any control on that. That's those dev team there. Do you think Fetch will help make PDI a legit USD peg or just a pie dream? There's some things you can do with the PDI stuff, but the way that I would take it now, and again, I haven't really kept up with some of the other things they have going on. To me, it's just a meme coin, right? So that's what it is, right? So how it evolves. I know they've made some changes. I just loosely ran through it. There's a lot that makes that stuff pretty difficult to actually be treated as a stablecoin, but that doesn't mean that's not a good investment, right? So most of you guys know, if you paid much attention to myself, that's just not the stuff. Like, I'm not a TA guy. I don't really jump on the meme coins. I don't really shotgun things around. But that doesn't mean that, again, I'm never going to make the most money. The guys who nail stuff like that are early on this thing or hop in SHIB or a lot savvier on the TA side, some of those guys make a ton, but that's just not really my game. It's not what I do well. I tend to pretty much just be obsessive and lean into things I think are valuable and try to lean into hey, if you build cool stuff, you tend to, end up in the positive. And that's really what I do. So I haven't really dug in it. I don't know how Fetch would make any difference. I mean, again, if they're able to edit the contract, maybe they can go through and do some stuff. But again, without knowing specifics, I would just say they really don't have much correlation with anything there. Okay, John Kim. What happens to the market price if people get liquidated by taking the minimum collateral ratio instead of selling Pulse on the market? Okay, so whenever there's a liquidation, that goes to the stability pool, like just right there, kind of on the 10 stability pool. So when the USDL that's in the stability pool, if your vault is liquidated, that PLS basically gets bought in the stability pool. So it doesn't hit the market, right? So it doesn't affect the price, right? So it goes through and actually basically destroys the USDL that's in the stability pool. And then those people who hold whatever, according to percentage of the pool, basically have like a limit order minus 10%. So they basically take that Pulse minus that 10%, and that's where the yield is in the stability pool. But it doesn't affect the price because that stuff doesn't hit market. So you don't have any effect from the liquidations there, sort of pushing down that price. That's what the stability pool is for. And again, that's where the yield comes from. I'll probably be doing a bit of a breakdown on some of the liquidations because that's one that people really want to have a good handle on. The other part is they're much less frequent than people think. Last I looked on Liquidity, now again, I would expect it to be more aggressive on PLS just because PLS is going to have a more volatile price than ETH in general. This is a brand, people may not be as early users. So I would imagine that that we had seen more liquidations, at least initially to some degree. But on Liquidity for the calendar year, it was less than 30 last time I looked, with like 1,280 open vaults on their side. So liquidations are a lot less common than people think. But that doesn't mean to then not pay attention and not do all the things right. So you want to the expression I always use is to be concerned, but don't be worried, right? Take care, make sure you're managing your position, use testnet, go through all these steps, figure these things out for yourself. Don't be using real money the first time you go through these things. Use the testnet, come through, ask questions, beat up all these guys, hear both sides, work through all this stuff. But yeah, I think it's fantastic how that stuff works out there. Let's see. I got 130 people watching. Appreciate y'all, man. It's always a blast. So as you guys know, I don't really do that much content outside of this. I mean, the crypto and coming through for PulseChain is what's made me forward facing and doing all that kind of stuff. So, these here where we're working in smaller groups. I love doing some of the, like I said, the weekly calls. If people have some groups where they want to reach out and say have 10 or 15 people, try to reach out to me either on Telegram or Twitter. Those kind of calls I think are so much easier to work through. So I try to do a lot of that. Now, again, can't do financial advice. You can't really do coaching, but just getting a chance to say, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z. Does this make sense? Does that make sense? And just, hearing it one-on-one, you get a lot of confirmation. So I like doing a lot of the smaller groups. We'll be doing way more live streams. We'll have the voice chats open on the Telegram. So, I think that's, having that kind of personal connection makes this stuff way, way easier in my opinion. Let's see. And sorry, guys. So the way we have this set up here, I'm having to read the questions over here, so I can't pop them up. I'll get that figured out next time. So some of these questions are disappearing. So if I miss questions, just try to repost them. I'll try to catch them. Can you state how much percentage then? Nope. The everything during there is no expectations. Oh, Corey, good to see you in the chat, man. Again, I don't know how far behind I am in the chat, but Corey, it's good to see you, man. You and Dane do good stuff, man. I like catching you guys on the call on Tuesdays occasionally. And whenever I get a chance to see highlights, I want to show you guys do good stuff, man. So glad to see y'all. And then we have the option stake 22, will stake login be part of the staking pool. So if you chose to do the delayed gratification, you got the bonus, but they're just locked up. So they're not in any of the pools. They're just locked up in there. That's what they are. So they're not going to be accruing any of this. They don't dilute the pool. They take the bonus. They're locked up. That's where they're set. All right. NATO crypto. Okay. Will there be a lag between the initial potential loan and protocol loan? Oh, okay. So basically that's, there won't be any lag. There's a few things about some of the timing there. Just let me think. No, I guess the short answer is no. Again, there's a little bit that we may move around a bit at the date of, but there's not going to be any like crazy delay or anything. You're not going to have it up and then be 48 hours before you can do anything. So within a little bit of kind of room of error there, no, you won't have any lag there. Yep, there'll be a heads up before launch. We're going to go through all that again. So we're going to have some fetch updates this beginning this next week from CC. We're going to have some cool competition. We have a lot that'll be going on here, so this stuff won't sneak up on anybody. Again, we're going to be going live here in October. What is it, the 30th? Yeah, so I guess, still next month, but, here coming shortly. We'll have plenty of stuff that comes out. Again, even if it's not a, to the minute launch, you'll have plenty of a heads up. It's not going to surprise anyone. Did Ethereum have a loan protocol at launch? So Troy asked, did Ethereum have a loan protocol at launch? They did not. So I think most people forget that, when you go through, it's actually really good history. If people are, a little more interested than these things outside of a speculative value, like you can look at color coins and the way the op codes got handled on Bitcoin. That was actually the stuff that really got me involved and interested in the space, was seeing sort of where Vitalik and a lot of those guys decided to, even Dan Hughes from Radix, where those guys decided to stop building on Bitcoin and move over. So again, turning off the op codes, things like color coins. So that there's a kind of some keywords there. You can go look up some of the history, and eventually see Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash split. But ETH, when it launched, didn't have any things. Like sometimes we forget that like there was a world before Uniswap. There was a world before 1inch. Like so many of these things that are just, one-on-one standard DeFi for us. None of that stuff was around when ETH launched. So that's something that when we look at, sort of that historical beginning to ETH, where PulseChain will deviate, because we have a lot of this cool stuff up. People, again, people have, they have those use cases in front of them, and these tools are up way faster. And that's part of the reason I'm very bullish on all the stuff we're building. Let's see here. No DeFi. What part of the system are you personally most excited about to make yield on? Man, so way before I was a part of the team or any of those things, I was always, you guys know, I'm kind of vanilla. I was excited about the stable coin and seeing how the value moves around. So again, I'm not good at speculation. I don't do charts. So for me, I just say, hey, does this thing seem like it's really useful? Like, would this make sense in TradFi? Do I think there's a lot of value there? Do I like the people building around it, the community? And that's what I tend to lean towards. So the stable coin is what initially got me really excited. I was like, okay, here's a way to, to take some of the big risk profiles that we have with stable coins and, that kind of connection between real world assets and what's on chain, and make it flawless and not have, admin keys, make it more censorship resistant. So initially it was USDL. I would think for the yield side, it's not going to be, again, because that's not where my magic is, but I think some of the ARB early on USDL, I think that'll be really engaging. Like, I'm just excited to see how it plays out, because typically, if people remember with like the hex chart, or like what is it going to do during like the PulseChain sacrifice, that stuff, sort of what we imagine could happen is always way crazier than what we think is always way crazier than what we typically end up seeing. But I think that we could see some pretty interesting movements around that early ARB, and that's pretty engaging to me. It's kind of hands-on. So as sort of again, even though I don't do it at a really high level, the sports betting, that stuff's really engaging. So kind of like I talked about poker, I like the percentages kind of stuff. So those are good lenses. So I'm really interested to see how that early R phase on USDL goes. Let's see. My wife wants to know, when are we rich? Man, when Lambo, huh? Hey, if your wife's even talking about this stuff, you're pretty wealthy, man. I don't want to get too meta, but I cannot explain how thankful and blessed I am to have my missus. So be glad she's there to even ask the questions, even if she's driving you nuts at the time. Yeah, Darren, more than happy. Day one would be nice. Yeah, we'll take day one. That's good stuff there. Let's see. What do we have? All right, very interesting. Nice. Okay, so Dixon here says, all right, so the loan token emissions that we receive for staking and the one that decreases over time as they're released, these are part of the supply. The loan token is not inflationary. Did I get that correct? Yes. Okay, so just to run through that one more time. So there's part of the supply it's already static. It's again part of the supply, and it just basically has those emissions. So you have the two emissions that he's referring to here. Get that up. Okay. So in the LP rewards, you have this here. Again, it's this 150 billion. It's set. It emits until it's gone. Dunsies. And then also in the stability pool, it has a halvening similar to Bitcoin. So you'll have this, again, a loan emissions there that will go out on top, and it halves over time and gets less and less and less. But again, it's not inflationary. That supply is already locked up in the contracts to handle those functions there. So yep, you do have that right. Just wanted to go over it, make sure everyone in the background understands where we're at. Good stuff. Let's see. When liquid loans party, that's what I'm talking about. We're right there. Man, hopefully we get a chance to maybe set up some things where we can do some of this in person. So I spend about half my time in Austin, but I travel a lot. I try to hang out with everybody as much as I can. I love it too, man. Like, this community is so fun, man. Every time I get a chance, Westcott, I've got a chance to link with him a couple times. Dude's absolutely insane. It's a blast to be around. I don't care if he fights with you guys on Twitter or not, man. He is dude's got an infectious smile, man. He's a blast to be around. Gary, Funding, Jim, KG, all these guys, Maddie, Black Hexagon and SJ. There's just so many people that step up and do cool stuff. Brian, man, dude, just handing out gear and cards, it's silly, man. There's so many selfless people. I touched on a little bit on the headphone video. I actually have a crazy amount of social anxiety. Most people probably don't notice it too much, because typically when I'm talking to you guys, I'm super excited. This is stuff I really enjoy engaging with. But there's just so much support. The community comes out, man. They just really do a ton. There's so much gratitude, man. I get really, really cool messages from a lot of people. Just thank yous for, this stuff here, there, just content or whatever it is, man. So, man, when grown men and women take time to come out and tell somebody thank you, they appreciate it, it makes all the difference in the world. So I cannot tell everybody else how appreciative I am, the gratitude, even when it's something simple. It makes a big deal. It's so much easier just to be an ass to people. But when people go out there and just show some appreciation, it's super powerful. So I appreciate it. And the community is insane, man. Love what LL's doing. Me too. Appreciate it. Yeah. Smash the thumbs up, all that good stuff. I'm terrible about all the influencer stuff. So definitely appreciate all the support, guys. Yeah. Pound for Pound says he's, down and needs a win. I get it, brother. Remember, again, that's the nature of the beast with this stuff. And I think that that's one of the things that gives LL some unique properties. And it's the ability to maintain your pulse bag, and still go try to chase some yield. So in some ways, I see a lot of what we have here as kind of an extension of PLS's tokenomics. Like this is added stuff that you can do with PLS, right? So again, yeah, trust me, sucks being down. I don't know where prices are going to go, but in general, we see these things. Again, they're volatile, but they tend to be volatile to the upside. The other is, again, some of the macro stuff, man. Obviously, nothing is as volatile as crypto, but when you look at a lot of the other assets, man, there's a lot of people not in crypto that are pretty wrecked, right? You see it with, a lot of these, some of the housing markets, they're still hot in a lot of places, but, people are having a hard time because of rates. You have a lot of the tech, like even when we look at some of the standard numbers coming out of the stock markets, outside of a handful of companies in tech, oh man, they're tough. So I get it. Bear market down. It's rough. Nothing I say is really going to make it feel better other than to just take it on the chin, take this time to learn. Most people just get eaten alive in their bear market. They learn something in the bull. They don't take enough profits, all that kind of good stuff. And a lot of times people tell you it's the second bull. So learn from everybody else's pain, take a deep breath, take a walk, touch grass, all that fun stuff. Comes with the bear market, man. It's the price we pay for having crazy upside, being early. Let's see. No, there's no risk. If you do not claim at some time frame, the loans don't expire. You don't have any risk there. Thank you, MCR. I'm 2 weeks behind in chat. Haha. No one knows how long 2 weeks is anyway. AJ Rip City, man. Good to see you, brother. Another guy who's super positive. Man, it's funny. Some of these people, I feel like we've talked for years, all that good stuff. So AJ's another super positive guy. I appreciate it, man. Axis, good to see you. Legend. Caught a couple of the streams you've done here recently, man. Man, I like a lot of the stuff you do. We're going to have to hop on stream again, and we'll touch on some of the fun stuff here. I was talking with Sloth a little bit too. I need to get on and do one with him. We've got a chance to kind of hop on and hang out a bit together, but not like get off in the weeds. So maybe the three of us can set some. It'd be fun, man. Great guys. Where do we go if we want to be a reporter for Fetch? Yeah. Okay. So we're going to get a bit of an update on that from CC on the reporter side from Fetch. We have a kind of a staged on how we're going to deploy that. But I would join the Fetch Telegram group. If from our main account here, I'll post it here in the chat in a minute, the link to the Telegram group on Fetch. But we got some documentation in there. A lot of times Gamma's in there helping as well. And for those that don't know, reporters for Fetch are similar to like a validator on a proof of stake. So reporters will put up Fetch tokens as stake or collateral, and that's when they're able to take advantage of the system and collect some of the rewards. They're able to make the reporters on there. So that's something that people will be able to take advantage of, at some point after launch. Again, we're building that really cool front end for not just reporters, but for stakers and holders of the Fetch token. Again, we'll have a lot more coming out on that. But if you're interested in, say, running something like a validator, but maybe don't have the kind of big high-end hardware, or just kind of interested in participating, reporters is a really, really cool way to get involved. They're not super expensive to set up. They're a little tricky. We have the stuff ready to go as kind of an MVP, but we're always working on improving, making setting up reporters and things like that easier. It can be clunky, but it's doable. It's not super hard. I know Gamma and a few guys have some resources, and I think as we get up and rocking, RH Max and Federer, those guys will I would imagine they would probably get in and maybe they'll do some support. Maybe I can do some content with those guys and work on some of the technicals on the setup there. Will a loan token automatically show up in your wallet? You have to claim it. I would check out testnet.neverselling.io. Yeah, Axis says L looking pretty great on testnet. Yeah, brother, we've worked really hard on that front end, making it as polished as possible. We walked through the tour function. If you hadn't seen that, that's something we added on there, and I think everyone will be really, really happy with the front end we have for Fetch as well. It's absolute fire. We really take a lot of time on polishing the design stuff there. Let's see. How many loan tokens do we get in the ratio of our PLP tokens? Okay, so John's asking about basically the emissions that come for the LP rewards. And so they have a flat emissions that's, over that block schedule there, but from, start to the end of the pool. And it's just based on your percentage there, right? So whatever your percentage of the pool is, you'll get that part of the allocation of the emissions. Let's see. Everyone's super excited. Dixon has retired twice on testnet. Good stuff, man. Now now you got your reps in, right? Third time's the charm. We'll get you retired on the top one there, man. MCR, same thing. Says he's testnet rich. Good stuff, man. What will be interesting is to see what people will spend their USDL on. Yeah, that's a big one. So that's something to touch on a bit when people are looking at strategies, like TCR. A big part of that is like how liquid you are. Like, what are we really doing here? So when we look here, and we're going over like total TCR and looking at options here. So one of the ways to think about is if for example, if you're going to take your USDL and you're going to truly spend it, right? So you're going to go buy the Lambo, you're going to replace the mortgage, you're doing something in the real world where you're actually going to take this stuff and off ramp it in some variation, or buying something where, like, let's say, for example, you were going to take it and do a long-term hex stake, right? So like essentially it's illiquid, or there's large penalties to retrieve it, things like that. Then you want to be more careful on your TCR. Like, so you want to have more range because you don't have that same instant ability to come and unwind and basically change that TCR and do the instant payback. Now, if you're like, let's say, for example, like some of the single-sided staking, or wanting to like provide liquidity. So let's say, for example, like you have 100K in Pulse and you're going to take 50K out, right? 50K in USDL. So let's say you could stick, say, like 20K in the stability pool, and then you can take 30K and you're going to be providing liquidity or, kind of chasing some yield, something that's new there. So there you could be a little more aggressive because as say the price of Pulse starts to move down, you could either take the rewards from the stability pool and add Pulse, or just take the USDL and add back. So that's where you sort of have this, very low risk yield opportunity, and it's right there in the DApp to come back, right? So you could be a little more aggressive or efficient depending on how you want to look at the the kind of idea of having dormant capital there. But you can be a little more aggressive on general TCR if you have things that are very liquid, right? So again, there we would be able to remove USDL from the stability pool or pull out of a single-sided staking. But if we were, in a more literal sense, spending the USDL where it's not accessible, or again, doing something where it's locked up, a liquid, a large fee to say withdraw it and get it back, then you want to basically like build that into your safety net. So I think you kind of have this how liquid, along with just general skill and what you have going on. How risky is the other assets you're in? I think all those play a pretty big part, and I think more people will sort of see the magic in what they have once they're actually trying to accomplish one of these things, right? So again, a big part of this is that you're able to take some of that value that you have locked in PLS and extract it so that you can go try to take some of these other yield opportunities, or buy the dip, or again offload off ramp it into the real world to actually spend in some variation, but you maintain your exposure to PLS, right? So again, you still have to understand how to modulate the platform and your position, but this adds a lot of utility and sort of get an extension, kind of the tokenomics of PLS, to be able to maintain that price exposure and still go take advantage of other yields in other places, rather than just selling your Pulse and minimizing again, either your yield opportunities or just kind of your general exposure in the market. There's a lot of value to be had there. Let's see. Good point. WaLLrus, what shampoo do you use? Oh man, it's good stuff, man. I think it was Money Gang who was like, "Oh, we launched. I can finally take off my headphones." Like, sometimes get guys that don't believe I have ears. It's fun stuff, man. Question. Okay, so Dick says, can the LL team or a rogue agent access or create the possibility to mint infinite amounts of USD in the background, like Binance mints? Jesus, absolutely. I know what he's getting at. So absolutely not. So first of all, there's a full audit report, 54 pages long, where it goes through, walks through all that with Halborn, and you can see all that stuff. There's a video that CC did. The audit report is also available, all that kind of good stuff. So there's no backdoor, there's no admin keys. The contract can't be changed. What's there is what's there. There's no option for anyone to really come in and mint any crazy amount of USDL or anything like that. So it's a good question. It's an important one to be able to go through there. Yeah, RST says it's game changer. Very cool, man. Appreciate it. Glad people are excited. Again, now that we're right here and going to be going live in October. Everyone, feel free again. Reach out. Let me know what I can do to help. Again, jump in the Telegram room. We're going to do more live streams where we get these kind of engagement, more voice chats. I love the voice chats on Telegram. Like then again, it gets to be a handful of guys. You can work through things. Really sharp. People can just get through, not feel embarrassed, and it's just different when you get a chance and you're just getting that direct communication rather than trying to dig through, the white paper, the video. Sometimes it's just nice to have those, and I enjoy them as well. John Kim says, "I'll buy the whole Liquid Loans team Old Spice shampoo for some fire." That's hysterical, man. Hexagon Lost Nature says, "WaLLrus shampoo equals ivory wax." That's hysterical, man. Nice. That's really funny, man. Pound for Pound says, "I'm from Central Texas, man." Let me know, man. Again, I'm in Austin about half the time. My godson plays football up in the Dallas area. I have some family in North Texas, so I bob around a lot in between. Again, people want to get together and hang out a bit. I do that fairly frequently. We can always, set up a meetup somewhere and hang out, do all that kind of fun stuff. But especially if you're in Central Texas, man, check out the 2 PulseChain tour events. I think they're the 20th of October and then the 4th of November. I'm going to be at both of them, but a ton of people are going to be out there. Shoot me a DM if you want to come and hang out, man. Be glad to shake your hand. Again, hitting the tours is super, super fun. Okay. Crypto CP says, "Can you explain how I receive my tokens, blah, 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 for the delayed gratification?" Yep. Testnet.neverselling.io. It's a good place to check. Dixon, what's barista? They make your coffee. Nah, check out the Magic Carpet Ride, guys. They're doing cool stuff there. Richard is the patron saint of crypto. Guys know a lot, man. It's hard to argue that. For better or worse, that guy has done a ton, regardless. And then Dixon says, "How can someone launch something on LL?" So they're, similar to say like on top of PulseX, or what you see with like Hedron, all the cool stuff that Alex has built, or Dip Catcher and Gokey and all those guys. So LL has its contracts, and then you can build front ends that just interact with those contracts the same way you could build another front end for Hex, the same way you can build a front end for Uniswap or any of these things. And then there's additional features. So there's ours is vanilla, clean LL contracts, right? But people can build additional features. They could add incentives. There's like people can do some auto compounding strategies, things like B protocol. There was a thing called chicken bonds. It was on top of Liquidity. I wasn't personally that big a fan of it. It's very, very difficult to get through, and it had some shortcomings. But again, this is DeFi, right? So the contracts are there. People can launch, do whatever they want. You can launch your own front end. You could add additional features and contracts that still interact with LL, all that kind of good stuff. I mean, that's the magic of DeFi. So again, if you know how to do those things, or you can look at some of the teams doing it, there's a lot of cool options there to build cool stuff. Platypus says, "What bear market?" Hey, if you're in the right stuff and you're trying to accumulate, what's it matter, right? I mean, again, sometimes I think people forget on the chart. It's really easy to get your own emotions tied up in that, but all that really matters is when you bought and when you sold, right? So again, the thing can do backflips, cross to zero, go back up, all that stuff. Again, I think that's probably a good lesson for most people, especially if they're new. The gentleman earlier talked about being down a big bunch. If it's your first bear market, it's really easy to think, wow, I messed all this stuff up, rather than just seeing it as a buying opportunity. So again, everyone has to make their own investment decisions, decide if, hey, you want to get off the ride. But I think that the more time people realize what their real goals are, again, theoretically, what you want is the lowest entry, a bunch of low DCA options. And then when you sell, it goes super high, right? Now, again, that's never how stuff works out. But sometimes people get way too invested in what the price is doing, especially if they're not looking at selling right now. And just on that same tangent, I think that's something also that's valuable to think about when you're doing any of these things that acquire yield, and something that's risk on, right? So that's hex staking, or maybe the single-sided staking and PulseX when that comes up, or loan, or these things. Your like rate of return and what you're seeing on APRs, or like validators is another good example. So if you say you're a validator, whatever, you collect, let's just say, I don't know, 10,000 PLS this week. Okay, well, if you look at the current price, so you're going to look at and see your APR. But if you take that and let's say, you wait 2 years, whatever your time frame is. And by then you see this price action and it's, 5, 10, a million X higher, then what your sort of actual like realized gains on that yield can be much higher. So that can be part of people's thought processes when they're looking at yield is, again, if it's in something that's like risk off, like you're getting paid out, say you're like in a stable coin LP provider. Okay, then that return is just going to be, in dollars, right? So you just take the yield and it is what it is. But if it's something that's risk on, part of that relationship on what value extract is, again, do you want to maintain that exposure with that asset and hold on to it? So again, things like validators, loan, or any of these things where, again, what you're receiving your yield in is risk on. A big part of that is, when you choose to actually sell that to actually collect that value. So one of those things to think about, man. Dixon says, is that like the Power City integrations? Yeah, those guys. Okay, no, so those guys are building stuff that's on top, but it's completely separate. So their interactions, what they build, all their code is all separate. It's just some of their stuff will access our contracts. Solder fork would be protocol. Yep. Yeah, MCR dropping some information. Cool. The up token guys, another guys building on top. Fun stuff there. Have y'all done a video about this on your channel? Yeah, Dixon, check out their stuff, man. I like those guys a lot, right? So again, we want to be careful about any, official stuff, the LL front end, the LL contracts or what it is, but a lot of people will build cool stuff there. Yep. And we got the fetch telegrams obviously in chat now. Maybe that was posted 2 weeks ago. But again, for people that want more of those intimate details on fetch and reporters, how a lot of that price stuff will work out, the telegram, there's a great resource. Let's see, you and Dipcatcher on stream. We've been interrupt for 6 months, looking firewalls. Hey, appreciate it, brother. Yeah, Dipcatcher's a super smart guy, man. That guy is just always just randomly digging into something super valuable. Like Alex is another one of those guys that I think those guys are good examples of seeing people who are savvy and then people who like truly kind of understand, the coding or dev at a pretty intimate level. And it really comes across when those guys speak, man. So they're super valuable. So whether or not you particularly agree with any of their like opinions on particular stuff, those guys, Alex, Dipcatcher are really worthwhile. Federer is another one. RH Max touches some of that stuff on like the validator scripts, but those guys offer, a unique perspective because of how especially knowledgeable they are at just that zeros and ones hardware level. A lot of value comes from those guys. So yeah, a ton of respect, man. I just want to stake it. Absolutely, man. I think it's MSYF is going to be huge. Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. I have a terrible Trump. Whatever, guys. Don't beat me up. John Kim says, worst case scenario in regards to liquid loans activity when price drops 86% in your opinion. Okay, so I think this is actually a little counterintuitive here. So, and I think this is a good question here. Now, again, there's a lot of caveats, but essentially this comes down to what if it drops 90%, right? Okay, so the first part is if something drops 90% and all you were doing was holding, you're already down 90%, right? So like this is not a good situation. This isn't a wrecked, unwrecked. This is degrees of wrecked when something drops 90%, right? So I think that's the first caveat as we're framing, right? Now, depending on how you're utilizing, again, it can have some variable answers here, but I think the simple way is if you're, say, at a collateral level where a 40% drop liquidates you. Okay, so here's your liquidation price, right? And this thing goes 90%. Depending on what value and where your USDL is, you'll end up more positive there. So again, it really depends on where you have your assets. I'm going to kind of paint the worst case scenario a bit. Well, like, let's say, for example, that you had 100K in Pulse, right? And you took out 50K. All right. So now you're going through and you've got 20K in the stability pool and 30K as USDL, and you have it a part of like part of an LP pool, right? So that 50K is in the market. Well, we're going to pretend it's static. Okay. You get a 90% drop. Okay, that would if you did nothing else, we're just going to say, hey, these are static to kind of work through the variable. It drops 90%. Okay, you basically would end up with a liquidated vault, but you'd have 50K, right? So if you had just held the Pulse and you got all the way down, you'd be at 10K. You'd be down 90%. Now, again, there's obviously some variations when it comes to capital gains and the sell being liquidated. So there's more variables here, but just simply it can essentially work like a stop loss in that situation. So depending on how you handle all the variables, to me, what is more like a worst case kind of a event on pricing is that you have your liquidation price and that the price basically skips that, right? Comes down, is enough to liquidate, and then the price runs off and you don't really get a chance to buy back in or do X, Y, Z. Now you wouldn't be, again, you're not going to be at zero. Like if you were say like margin trading with leverage or anything, you're still going to have whatever the USDL or whatever you purchase with it. So you don't go down to zero, but that to me is more the worst case. It's if you basically get liquidated and then it runs off, not that it runs down. If it runs down, you'd have the opportunity to buy it back in, keep your assets where you have more options there, maintain sort of that other position. So the 90% drop, again, 90% drops are bad no matter what you're doing. But to me, the real worst case is basically that it goes down just enough to liquidate and then the price runs off. So, work through some of those strategies, think about it on testnet. And again, that's where it comes back to some of those variables. So, if you're trying to, if you're not a very experienced user, like if you don't do this stuff all day, every day, you're not, sitting here on the forums or on Telegram or on Twitter, like if you're just saying, hey, I have some PLS, how do I use this? One, you can just take advantage of the yield stuff in the protocol or be silly conservative on collaterals, right? I mean, there's no limit, right? I mean, you can take 700, 800, 1,000, all that kind of, very, very high collateral levels so that it's not very hands-on. And again, the other part is how liquid is the other side, right? So again, you want to balance out, how experienced are you, not just for sort of like the risk on the profile, but can you be doing something really worthwhile, right? Like I'm going to be very, very vanilla in how I chase yield, but someone like Axis or Sloth or like Dylan, Dixon, some of those guys, some of those dudes that are just, 4-digit IQs, those guys can be not only more aggressive in a safe way, but they're also going to get a bigger payoff because they're probably going to be really efficient at gathering yield. So I know that can be kind of a mouthful there, but essentially kind of like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you're very, very conservative now and you mostly just buy and hold, maintain a very, really high collateral ratio, keep it super, super simple. Don't do any of this crazy stuff. But again, the more savvy you get, or if you want to experiment with a smaller bag, or you are a very sophisticated user, there's a just ton of opportunity here. And then something else I always like to highlight. If you don't do any of this and you don't care about liquid loans, this kind of stuff adds value. It adds to the value proposition of PLS. So again, if you're more of a maxi mind state, or if you just want to touch on things very, very slow, man, take all the time in the world to work through these things, hold the tokens you think are valuable, and you can be a cheerleader from the sidelines and wish everybody else well and hope that all these things basically add value to the chain. So I don't think that people should, again, you don't have to get too aggressive. You don't have to love every single project that comes out. But we're trying to build valuable stuff. It's going to be, add value to the chain. And again, we can, offer value, and you don't even have to touch this stuff. So again, I think it's positive if you don't touch it. It's positive if you, just want to use it in limited ways. And again, the more sophisticated, the more time you have to develop, the bigger bag, the more savvy you are on other protocols where there's yield, this just starts to have more and more returns, right? It's kind of exponential there, in my opinion. How is LL and Barista related? So Barista is another front end being built by another team. So it's completely separate from us, but it is going to work on our contracts. All right, wait. All right, so Nate Cripps says, what if a chunk of PLS gets removed from PulseX liquidity positions and moves into Element USDL? Liquidity could drop while demand goes up. Yeah, there's all kinds of interesting, and this is where, again, I think that we start to see some fullness that's really, really valuable here. So the more options there are to do interesting stuff with PLS or USDL or loan or any asset, anything that we care about, the more value there is. There's not just more net value, but again, it starts to pull down some of that dilution. So I actually think that as liquidity tends to follow price, right? So do you want to provide liquidity at the prices we see now? Maybe not. But again, if it was, at some point, everybody's a buyer and a seller, right? So at some point it goes low enough. Hey, I'm going to stick more money in pretty much no matter what, right? And at some point, if it goes high enough, we're going to sell. So liquidity tends to follow that. I do think that what we see is not that we won't have more liquidity as we go up in price, but that we'll see that liquidity thin out sort of as a ratio relative to price as there's more and more things to do. I think if you look at some of the largest wallets outside of validating, a lot of those guys are just providing liquidity because it's, kind of the biggest show in town right now. But the more and more options that show up, I think that we'll start to see some positive correlations there with LP as it thins out when there's other things to do. So I think that means then providing LP is more advantageous. And then again, there's all these other options there. So I think we'll see some interesting things go on with LP as these protocols kind of come to life here. Does Red Squirrel LL have a strategy on Tetra? We do not. So there's a lot of guys that do great strategy stuff, and I want to absolutely thank and implore them to keep doing those kinds of cool things. Again, whether or not anyone wants to actually employ any of those strategies, they just get the juices flowing. People like that game theory stuff is super interesting. I like reading them, even if I don't intend to use any of them. Tetra, again, is another third party. Again, we don't have any kind of official endorsements on any of that stuff, but Tetra is another one that should be building cool stuff. Red Squirrel, super savvy, man. I haven't got as much chance to talk to him, but we've been in a lot of similar chats, and I know he's got some cool stuff to chip in there. Let's see. What do we got? Just clearing an hour, guys. So I'll probably do another, hit most of these here, maybe do another 10, 15 minutes, and we'll wrap up there. Yeah. Fastest. Squirrel has with like 4 O's, many strategies with LL. Definitely, man. There's a lot of really cool people that have, great teams building things on top, but a lot of different community members have interesting strategies. I think the strategies are worthwhile even for some framing. So even if you don't actually want to use any of the individual strategies, I think they start to give you some context for, okay, hey, there's space and opportunity here, or hey, I like this piece, or hey, as I kind of go through my own journey of understanding, maybe I feel comfortable with a crazy high collateral and just the stability pool where I'm all on the platform, super simple. And I just, I take my training wheels or dip my toe in the pool, any of those metaphors of just very, very light understanding with really minimal risk. And you can kind of dial in like, okay, I'll take this little piece of that strategy and just essentially just play with it at a light level, use it on testnet. So I think the strategies are really, really cool for ideas and framing, even if you don't employ anyone's individual strategy. So I think there's a lot of value there. Yeah, Up Token says to share the stream. Absolutely appreciate that, guys. Again, I try to just try to again put out the most information, education I can. I try to be helpful. I try to be of service. That's my 2 cents. I'm not much of an influencer. I'm bad about reminding people to like or sharing that kind of cool stuff. So luckily, Dave and CC and killer guys we have on the team, they do a lot to even helping with like getting me set up for AV and all that stuff. So man, the team is everything. I just could not be more grateful for the community guys and all your guys' support. I love doing this, man. I have a blast hanging out with you guys. I've heard a few people say, oh, when they hit the big, they're not going to be on Twitter and Telegram. Man, I very, very much enjoy the interactions with the community, and the vast majority are an absolute pleasure. So I love you guys. I feel like we will all be very happy by the time Christmas rolls around. Hey, it's looking positive, man. I like it. And I'm seeing all the hearts click through and all those thumbs up, man. So appreciate that, guys. A lot of rocket emojis, good stuff. I like it. Okay, so Joe says, hey, WaLLrus, are my PLS tokens going to be generated automatically to my address, or do I need to request them? I'm not sure, brother. If you'll reframe your question, I'm not 100% sure what you're asking, but I'll get to it, man. Let me know. Oh, went too far on the questions. Everyone stay calm. No one panic. All right. Okay, Kevin, will PLS USDL be on PLSX for LP? Yes. So the LP incentive that we have, look it up right here. Yep. So the LP rewards. So you actually, once you provide LP, you stake them here on the platform where you see, and you have to provide the liquidity on PulseX V2, specifically V2, okay? Because they have different contract addresses. So you want to do it on V2 for 2 reasons. One, you can't get the LP rewards if you don't. And the other is V2 is where you actually get to collect those fees, right? So there's a few differences in PulseX on V1 and V2. So it needs to be on V2. So make sure you double check that. Again, if people are going to want to participate in that, especially early, if you haven't done very much of that, if you're not, that savvy on the LP stuff, one, you can play with that a little bit on MAINNET with just, a baby bag. Transactions are so cheap on PulseChain. And that's one of the most underrated things about cheap transactions is that learning, testing, playing, shooting all this stuff around is way less expensive. So take advantage of that. And then again, on testnet, you can go through and double check, make sure you're providing LP in the right way. We can do a short video on that, just a clean walkthrough and kind of like a slideshow step by step. It's pretty simple, but again, we want to make sure that everybody's, very, very comfortable on how to do that stuff. So it is on PulseX and on version V2. Okay, Vanilla the Hexagon says, just curious, in your own perspective, what are the best reasons to be bullish on liquid loans token long term? So you guys know, again, I don't do TA, not price stuff. I never make forward-facing price calls on anything. That's always been my thing. I think what it really, so again, price just goes where sentiment goes. I mean, again, if everybody sells it down, it's gone. But I think that we'll see, again, we like to see strong yield. And I think that having something like LL from the beginning is super important, right? So like this is going to be just, again, when people get on ETH, like Uniswap is 101, right? Like so many of us have gotten used to Matcha, and 1inch and some of these like DEX aggregators, but it took a while because these things came out after we got used to just using Uniswap, right? Or SushiSwap or whatever these networks are. So people typically just do what's normal, right? So I think that USDL, LL, and a lot of the cool stuff that is sort of built from within the community being outright, right available in the beginning, that makes a big difference. The fact that this is what's normal, like, hey, USDL, LL, all these things, that they're sort of, part of that culture as PulseChain grows, I think is really important. And same thing with every other protocol, right? Like these things being here, and you can see that in the community, like go grab the random person in the community and see how savvy they are on validators. Begin to so much of this is grassroots built from the community that, validators, actually using PulseX, rather than say like just an in-wallet swap, internet money and all the cool stuff those guys have going on as far as their wallet features, like that's just normal, right? So for a lot of us, as we go through kind of our crypto journey and learning experience, we start somewhere and then we sort of have to kind of unlearn, right? So for now, you'll see maybe on Cash App or Robinhood, someone bought some Bitcoin or Doge, and they're like, okay, now maybe you get them onto an exchange, and then you get them into a wallet. So you see people move along this process, and where I think so much of this will be advantageous over, other things on ETH or in other communities, is that they're just going to be so much part of what's normal, and what's normal makes it way easier for users when it's just kind of the standard. So I think having these things out clean, DeFi being just, such a calling card of the community, I'm bullish not just on what we see out of loan, but just these things, just being just almost part of being on PulseChain will be tools like LL. Like that to me is where there's a lot of magic, I think. Hopefully that answers there. What are they all built in punt memos? I think I touched on that good stuff there. So, and then optimality. So the Fetch Oracle launches soon then? Yep, it'll have to be launched in October. Again, it'll be out before LL. John Kim, more than welcome. Thanks for all the questions, brother. Up token says, what do we have for time? All right. Well, I'm going to try to run through this a little quicker. Samuel, thanks, man. Okay, real quick before I answer up token. So Samuel says, shout out to the Telegram admins. Admins everywhere. Thank you guys so much. It's just, guys, it can be frustrating. Those guys do a ton. They answer the same questions over and over and over again. I could not be more appreciative. Any of our admins or any of the guys in any of the projects we sort of have in the community, guys, if there's everything I can do for you guys, just reach out, man. I cannot thank you guys enough. They do not get enough credit. They're almost like refs. They only get yelled at when they make a bad call. No one ever acknowledges all the other great stuff they do, or like linemen. No one notices them until they mess up. Those guys and girls are fantastic. Thank you, and then thank you 5 more times. So couldn't say that enough about our guys, and then tons of other project stuff. Like it's thankless stuff. No one ever appreciates it, but great stuff, guys. So thanks for shouting them out, man. So on redemptions, man, redemptions are everything. It's not a stable coin unless it has redemptions. So we touched on it a bit earlier, but just to kind of highlight it one more time quickly. So the redemptions are right here in the DApp, and redemptions are what allow you to, it's kind of going slow. There it goes. Redemptions are what allow you to get that dollar's worth of the collateral, PLS, no matter what the price is of the stable coin. So even when you see it sort of come off peg, redemptions are what drive that back, right? So this is where that magic basically comes from, the ability to redeem when it's too low and to mint more when it goes above. So this is what makes something a stable coin. Redemptions are everything. So again, we touched on it a bit earlier, but they cannot be understated. Like, this is what makes things a stable coin. So definitely get a feel for those. Again, they will not be on for the first 14 days. That's part of getting that liquidity up really, really high and making sure that USDL has good order execution. So there's probably going to be some really interesting opportunities there early on. All right, I'm going to try to speed through and hit as many of these. Again, really thanks, Samuel, for bringing up the admin guys, man. It's a big deal. I love those guys. What's the LP rewards program? So we touched on that earlier, but we'll definitely touch on. I have a whole video on that as well. If you'll look through our channel, LP rewards, I touch on it. But it's where similar to like an INC farm that you have on PulseX, there's actually an LP rewards tab right here in the DApp. I'll show you real quick, brother. LP rewards, and this is where you'll stake those LP, and you actually, rather than an INC, you get a loan token emission that's built in here. So really, really interesting early mechanic there. Solid MMA. Hey, thanks, Nato. Appreciate it. Appreciate the questions, man. That stuff makes it a lot easier. Pressing the like button, increase your toss run by 20% at least. Like, look it up. I read a study. Thanks for. WaLLrus beautifully done. Yeah, man. It's derivative. Hey, appreciate the shout out, man. Absolutely. Austin is just starting to cool off, although we did have a hailstorm, so I will have to get some hail dents out of my truck. Try to be calm about that. Not very happy. But yeah, the weather's getting super nice. It was great today. And then again, anyone that's going to come out to the meetups, shoot me a message. Happy to hang out. Like, I love all you guys. Basically the first mover advantage. Yeah. There's definitely some first mover. Getting into some of those pools early will likely do well. All right, guys, we're going to shut it down there. I'll keep working on some of these. Again, people get at the Telegram. If you'll tag me on questions, I'll be more than happy to help. Thanks so much to everyone who wanted to jump out here. Thanks to the people that watched. Again, we'll probably chop some of this up for shorts. I'll be doing more live streams now that we're right here. People are getting dialed back in. They're excited. Network's up. We got all these cool options. Very, very excited. So again, we're going to keep doing more hammering on the specific content, a lot of evergreen stuff. We'll have our fetch update coming out probably Monday or Tuesday. Lucas, maybe it's not 48 hours exactly, but it will be very close to that. Do not beat me up over a couple of hours. I'll have my normal kind of update video that goes out on Monday. But again, guys, get at me if we need more clean walkthroughs. Again, there's a lot built into the DApp, but we want to make this as seamless and easy for people as possible. Let me know what I can do to help. Yeah, I see all the hearts and the cheers, guys. Appreciate y'all so much. Thanks for joining the live stream. You guys are awesome. I could not be more happy to be in the community, guys. This is the most important things I've ever done in my professional career, whether it was, stuff with How To Pulse, where I am now, everything I've done on the chain, people I've helped, content creators, relationships. This has been the most important thing that I've done as an adult, as a professional. And I can't tell y'all how grateful I am, guys. I really appreciate it a lot. And I will catch y'all for the next live stream, catch you on the updates, yell at me on Twitter, Telegram, get at me wherever you guys need. Appreciate y'all. Y'all stay safe.